Hi, I'm Angus MacEwan, SVP, Head of US Business at Highsnobiety. Excited to be here today to talk about the future of fashion at DEPT Talks. Before we get into it, I was going to take everyone through some of the chapters that we've been through as a business at Highsnobiety that I think puts us in a unique space to get a strange glimpse of the future in terms of what might happen next. Many people, of course, know us from where we started as a publisher, or even maybe a blog. But yeah, our business now is quite different, and it's been an amazing journey to be a part of that and to see it grow over the years. In 2005, it was quite literally, a space where David Fisher, our CEO and founder, was curating his favorite products and brands and putting them in this space and creating, I guess, a unique voice over those products and almost his own language. And I think that's still very much at the heart of our business today. It's very much about curating culture. Those early stages of the business very quickly, I think, translated into us actually building a community, not only a space, but actually a shared mindset that brought a bunch of people together globally to celebrate and continue to explore the different products and brands that, when put together, almost created this different world where skateboards could suddenly be put next to Louis Vuitton or Gucci products, which it's something that obviously now is, I think, we're all used to. But I think when this started this business, it wasn't so usual. In 2018, we first set out to formally identify the space that we had been, I guess, reporting on, also very much influencing and being a part of as well. And the new luxury was a term that we coined 3 or 4 years ago now, and since then I think it's very much become the heart and soul of everything we do. Is very much about the new luxury space that's brought together by a different set of mindsets. Traditional luxury being very much driven by affluence and how much something might have cost, exclusivity, whereas new luxury very much being driven by knowledge, and that being the cultural currency moving forward. The new luxury started as one project for us, but very quickly turned into a work stream. And so what started as one white paper really now is an ongoing exploration, of the space. Mid-pandemic, we went in to see how the new luxury mindset might have shifted during that strange time in 2020. After that, once we, I think, really started to get our head around the space that we were watching and very much a part of, we quite quickly moved to define the character that was playing a role in that movie, and was watching the space all of the time, and that was the cultural pioneer, which is how we talk about our audience, and also I think the consumer that exists in the new luxury space. And again, started as one project and very quickly moved into an ongoing exploration of that mindset, and an ongoing journey with the cultural pioneer is very much how we see our journey as a business for now and moving forward. And ultimately, I think a really exciting time for us here as a company was where we actually started to turn up as our own brand in our own right. And, a couple of examples recently, Not in Paris, which is one of our most exciting flagships. And I think even yesterday we launched Gate Zero, which is our travel retail initiative, where we're bringing some of our favorite brands and products into an airside space in Zurich, which is almost using those same skills that or David rather, started using when he began this business, but now using them in a different way, and again, using them very specifically for the cultural pioneer. In addition to putting quite some energy into our own brand, we're also using conversations that we're having with our audience our expertise and our perspective to also support other brands in turning up in culture in new and unique ways. A couple of our favorite examples being Mercedes for one, and Gucci for another. Ultimately, and tapering off maybe the introduction of this talk, we very much see ourselves and our relationship to this consumer is the thing that gives us a unique perspective on what future of fashion might look like, how it might behave in different ways, and how the rule book might be changing a little bit. So it all starts with the cultural pioneer. And so, I think we wanted to take you through just 3 things that we have seen and noticed about them that might not have existed in other consumer sets in the past or even now. The first is that they buy stories first. I think the story is such an incredibly important part of the experience for this consumer. And not only that, but it actually really has to come first. Chronologically, it has to come first before the product. I think one great example of that is the Yeezy Gap product that's shown up at Kanye West Donda experience. Because of that story and the way that it's been consumed already, the product suddenly then becomes so much more interesting when it does actually become available. But I think even more importantly, it gives an access point and an opportunity for consumers to engage in that collection, even if they don't end up buying it. The story sometimes actually is the product. The upcoming Gucci motion picture, I think, is going to be a really interesting moment for fashion. Whilst so many individuals might not actually own Gucci products, this is a story that actually people can engage with regardless of that. And I think it's a great example of the true importance of stories and really what you can achieve with that. And this is all, of course, before the films even actually come out, which I think's, again, sometimes the medium is the message. And then, ultimately, they're super smart, this consumer as well, right? So they're also very aware of marketing. Also very much marketing in its traditional form. So it makes them maybe the most difficult consumer to actually market to, which forces brands to really think differently. A great example being the Simpsons Balenciaga story that was released. And, whilst it might not have been the favorite story that a Simpsons fan might have heard over the last years, it certainly was something that would have landed very hard with the new luxury consumer and the Balenciaga consumer. And so I think it's very much about choosing the consumer that you really want to serve and hyper serving them rather than trying to please everyone. The brands that are really getting it right are the ones that they're choosing the people who they care about and they want to connect with. And this was a great example of that. Ultimately, it's a customer that needs to be treated differently. I think you see a lot of the businesses and brands out there today, they're really considering different forms of communication to speak to very specific consumers. And I think this is something that, again, that we're seeing being the common denominator right now in some of the brands that are really getting it right. That brings us to brand universes, which is terminology, again, that has become very infectious within our business. We really enjoy watching brands move away from, turning a campaign engine on and off twice a year to finding ways to invite a consumer into a universe 365 days per year. And it's actually the number one reason why a consumer from our audience segmentation would follow or engage with a luxury brand will be because they have been invited into a universe. And this terminology actually was born from editorial work that Chris Morency, in this case, has produced actually over a year ago now. And that's actually quite, something for us as a business is also very important, is that we are editorially driven, so the thinking that starts with editorial work on our sites and our channels often actually becomes the toolkit that we use as a business to actually continue to tell stories for the consumers on our platform. And this again started as a project, a one-off, and we very quickly realized the importance of, again, creating an episodic journey for those on our platform. And again, it allows for us to constantly update this toolkit in regards to how businesses, brands are creating universes and inviting consumers and customers into them. Here's just 3 examples of some of the chapters that followed Chris's original piece of editorial work. One of my favorites of most recent months has been Merchtainment by Tom Bettridge, which I think, it really zooms in quite somewhat on that moment we saw with Balenciaga and The Simpsons. Some of our favorite universes, I think the Prada, the bucket hat challenge has been something that caught our eye as a business, and I think it's also caught the eye of a hell of a amount of young consumers out there. Almost the product becoming almost the ticket to the universe, and you've seen so many different people engaging with that, including some of the big faces from the TikTok platform. Moncler Genius, going with the Mondo Genius project this year has been a true universe moment where brands have turned up and shown a different side of themselves, but in a way that all links together when these talents, brands, and products are all in the same room. Creating a universe there that can live on longer than just one single campaign. Telfar TV is another great example of, I think, where a pretty relevant brand has gone from just being a collaborator to having some iconic products that are available, but then actually creating a storytelling platform in which he can do some really interesting things there with. And brands that are working to become publishers in their own right are the ones that we're seeing do some seriously interesting things when it comes to storytelling. This is a great example of that. The Bottega Veneta structure in Seoul was, I think, a really good example of how Bottega have stepped out of the world of fashion, but done so in a way where their universe is really bleeding into other parts of the real world. Very closely followed up by the moment in Australia a couple of weeks ago, which another one that I think got quite some headlines, within our business, and I think wider within the community too. And I think that's another thing is winning with this consumer is sometimes it's as much about them really calling this great marketing, great storytelling, as it is to them actually buying the product. Sometimes we see those as 2 equally important things in terms of building a really strong community of customers. Back to Bottega, I think we see them not only creating universes, but also handing keys over to other communities to create universes for them. And this, of course, is where things can get quite interesting in terms of longevity and really almost being able to make some really crazy marketing decisions, like switching your own Instagram off, for example, being one of the things that we saw from that business. So to participate in the future, brands have to be able to build universes in some way, and so why is the question that we're constantly asking ourselves. I think number one, it's become less about seasonal moments and more about actually approaching the community with a blank canvas. I think fashion brands in the past have seen that there's 2 opportunities to show up and talk about their products and do so through storytelling. And I think now what becomes really exciting is that the space really opens up. It's a blank canvas, and brands are really creating their own cultural calendar. And again, that's another common denominator that we're seeing with the brands that seem to be cutting through the noise right now. The universe is also unshackling brands from, I think, the conventions that have existed for quite some time. We're seeing brands and businesses from the gaming space working with luxury fashion brands, and the Xbox, Gucci examples are one that's very recent. this just not being something that we would have seen before. And I think, again, fashion brands that need to make it moving forward will need to show a willingness to push boundaries and create these unexpected moments in culture, but also ones that, retrospectively make total sense also. The more things that you put in front of them as an audience, the more you can actually go beyond being a fashion brand. So what products is your business actually creating that it is not clothing? And, again, going back to the point from earlier, like one of those products should be a story. It should be a story in its own right, and that should be considered to be the product that everyone should be able to engage with. And, whilst we are here today to talk about fashion, I think one thing that we're seeing is, of course, the automotive space mixing in with the fashion space. We just discussed that through gaming as well, but it's a very exciting time, and I think we can imagine for more of these universes to be created, but also for there to be more, unexpected characters turning up on these stages as well. And this ultimately means that the future of fashion gets quite exciting because the boundaries constantly keep getting pushed, and that means that the businesses, brands have to constantly work very hard to continue to break boundaries. And we were speaking a little bit about here internally, what would be a nice way to round this presentation off. And I think on reflection, I think one thing that we liked about what we moved through here today is that we didn't really talk that much about actual products. We've really been talking about stories and the way that brands are showing up, regardless of what's actually on the shelves in their stores or on their e-commerce platforms. And this is really, I think, the most important thing for fashion moving forward, is to recognize that the product is no longer the most important thing. And we love that, because at Highsnobiety we're constantly enjoying building stories and as well as consuming them. Going back to Christopher Morenzi's article, if brands need to create universes, then the products essentially become like almost a souvenir of the experience that you've gone on with that brand. And so it's understanding the delineation, but also the importance to turn up with both products and stories. Thank you very much. Excited to go through some questions with you in a second.